Starting this podcast was an unexpected step of obedience of something that God has called me to do. Through this podcast, I will be interviewing ordinary people who have seen and experienced God move in extraordinary ways throughout their lives. I pray that this will build your faith and encourage you to testify of God's goodness in your everyday lives. Not mainly on me. Okay.
Can we edit? I'm like, no. Okay.
Yes.
Dakota's going to edit these for us.
That would be hilarious. Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Testify of God's Goodness podcast. I have here with me Allie and Travis Clower. So just share with us a little bit about you guys. So your callings and work and life and how we know each other.
Absolutely. You want me to start?
Yep.
So Sarah and I go way back to, I don't know.
Middle school. Probably, yeah.
My sister married her brother. Been going on family vacations for many years. A lot of good memories there. Allie and I have been together for coming up on 11 years already.
Wow.
We got married back in 2017. I went off to EMU. We did the long distance thing. We got married in college.
Yeah.
I came back, went to work down in Winchester for a little bit, and then came back home to work for the bank. Been doing that for 5 years, and I won't speak too much for Allie, but I'll let her speak a little bit.
Well, you watch our precious two girls. That's the main thing. And yeah, we went to high school together.
Yep.
So we've known each other for years.
Yes. Yeah.
What about a little bit about your job?
Oh yeah, okay. I'm a business owner / stay-at-home mom, so I only work half part-time.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't really know what else.
Yeah, so you do hair. You're very talented with that. Yes. So what part of your testimonies do you guys feel led to share today? I know there's a lot.
Yes. I would say let's start
with when we decided we wanted to get married?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So we were actually at a church service with Billy Wayne at this church.
Yes.
And it was, I will never forget, he was speaking about just being distracted, but not being distracted by drugs, alcohol, which also, yes. But he was talking about being distracted with good things. I mean, with your kids' schedules, with, just
sports.
I mean, it's just, even, he even said, even church thing, like you can just be so into good things, helping your community. And, but you need to be focused on God and where your life is at. And if it is at the right place, and if you are doing the right thing biblically, like what God wants you to do.
Yeah. And
we were both just kind of like, I was living with his parents at the time, and he was in college, but when he would come home, like we would like stay together and things like that. And we just kind of felt convicted, and without even talking, we both knew how each other felt. And I just remember getting in the car, and we were just like in silence after the service, and he was like, would it be crazy if we got married?
Literally, we were so locked into the service, and we just got in. I remember right out in this parking lot, we just sat there, and I was just staring forward. She was staring forward, and I just turned to her. I said, this was like May, right?
I think it was
end
like
of April.
Yeah.
End of April. And it's like, would it be crazy if we got married? And like, we just started laughing. So like, that's not really a traditional proposal, but that's kind of how it went. And long story short, that was the end of April. My mom, Judith, Casey, everyone came together and planned our wedding. And, just a couple of weeks, and it was great. We ended up getting married June 4th, 2017. And I'll share this because I'm sure Allie would get choked up. But ever since she was a little girl, she always wanted her pap to marry us. So, most people decide they're getting married, and I don't say most people, but some people, and it's several years before, planning wedding, planning venues.
Well, when we were actually in the car, we called my grandparents, and I just wanted, I asked my pap to come to the courthouse in Marriott. Like, I just wanted to just go to the courthouse, and he is actually the one that encouraged me to have at least a small wedding because our family would want to be there and witness things. So he talked me into having like a small wedding where he would marry us.
Right. Right. So we didn't want to wait. We knew that it was going to be crazy. I was going to be a junior in college, and we didn't have. Well, I think you were working. Yeah, you were already had a full-time job, and I was a full-time student, and I worked for her dad in the summers and have anywhere to live. I mean, we had a place to live. We didn't have our own place to live, but we weren't in the world's eyes. We didn't have 20% to put down on a house. We didn't have income. We didn't have we didn't have any of that. But we decided to go against what the world was telling us, and we went ahead and got married. And then that was June 2017, and then her granddad passed away in October of 2017. So that was a really hard time. I saw a family come together. I mean, Allie's family is very rooted, and her Nana is just strongest woman I know, and they came together, and just that was just. I mean, I felt like if we got through that, we could get through anything. At those it was months and even years. It still hurts, but that was just a huge part of our testimony, and it had such a huge impact on my life in such a short time because I grew up going to church. I wouldn't say I was a follower of Jesus or had a personal relationship with him, but I remember Allie was like, "All right, we're going to go to church this Sunday, and I want you to come to my granddad's church." And I just remember like going in and just hearing his voice, like he's the type of preacher that didn't even need a mic. Like when he spoke, you listened, and it just had that voice and just really made an impact on me. And I got to work with him, and he was semi-retired when I went to work for Brad, but he would come help us on jobs, and just the light that he had, and we'd just be 100 degrees on a roof, and he'd just be down there cutting metal, humming "Thank You Jesus." That was he was always saying that, and just very special. So that was really the foundation of our marriage, and seeing Allie's parents and Nana and Pep, just the way they live was just a huge,
That's
start
cool.
for us. So
Yeah.
I forget what the question even was, but
well, just just whatever you guys wanted to share, like within your testimony. So
yes. So then, So then I moved in with my Nana because he was in college and I was living with his parents at the time, and she was, alone because it was nothing could have prepared us for losing him. It was very, quick and just, tragically. So I moved in with her. Well, you did too, but you were in college. And so we got pregnant with Anderson. 2019, yes. I actually got my blood work back the day Pep's birthday.
Oh,
it's kind of crazy. And the verse of that day, you know how like the Bible gives you a verse every day? Okay. So it was James 1:17, which was the date. And it said every good and perfect gift comes from above. That was the day
I have chills. That's amazing.
Found out that I was pregnant with her. And I knew right away, girl, boy, whatever it was, I wanted to name them after him. So that's why our daughter, he was William Anderson Fountain. That's why her name is Anderson.
Yeah.
And I was about 16 weeks pregnant, and I had found like a lump in my breast. And I had an appointment that day. I went to my appointment and told my OB about it. And he told me not to worry until he told me to worry. So they got me in as soon as possible. I think it was like 2 days later. And it was him and Casey who went with me. They took me back in the room. They gave me an ultrasound, and they put us in this little room. And I was like, oh my gracious. I was just like a mess. And but I knew that everything was going to be okay, but I was still so scared of what could be, when you're pregnant anyways, and you're having a girl, like hormones are just, but also the worldly part of me, I was scared. I didn't know.
For sure. That's understandable.
And the doctor came in, and he was great. He was the head of radiology, and he was actually a Christian. Like, Christian music was playing, and he said, it is a mass, but he is 99.9% sure that it was not cancerous. Yeah. And so they watched it for a little while, and then it changed. My Dr. Casey watched it for a while too, and it's been 6 years, and everything's been good with that. But that was hard. I didn't know what I would say. That was like the first medical scare that we had, and then
you've had some since.
Had some since. I was probably. You want to go to yours?
About my mass?
Fast forward to that.
Yeah. So Andy was born in September of 2019, and really I didn't have any issues until probably 2021. I think
when I was pregnant with Asa.
Yeah. So end of 2021, I start feeling just like some pain in my left hip, and I wasn't really sure what it was. We got x-rays. I didn't get an MRI at first because I think that would have told us what it was. And
yeah, because you were in the office when.
Yeah. So, long story short, it was a mass on my hip, and Allie was pregnant with Asa, and something that we always, it took us so long to pick her name. I mean, Andy's we picked pretty quick, but we had decided on something else, and we were sitting in church one Sunday, and Pastor Jed was talking about King Asa. Yeah. And Allie was like kind of just like perked up when he said that. And then we went home later. You were like, I like that name. And then we went home, and was it Judith that Googled the what Asa meant? And it meant healer, that her name means healer. Wow. So we decided to name her Asa. We put a little twist in it. We put a Y in it to make it a little girly. Yeah. I guess that's our thing. We put a Y in Anderson's name. So I went, and we had the biopsy shortly after. They discovered it was a mass after my MRI, and it came back non-cancerous, and I had so many MRIs to measure it, and it was growing, and the doctor explained to me that like tumors have like different natures, and like the nature of this tumor is to grow. And I was like, well, what are our options? I was thinking, in my head, like, all right, we'll just cut it out. He was like, well, if I have to cut it out, I have to take a good chunk of your glute with it, and that's not something you want to do. You're in your mid-20s, you're fairly active. Yeah. You'll mess up your gait, and then you're gonna have problems with your knees. I was like, all right, well, what do you recommend? He's like, we can either burn it or freeze it. And he said where it's at, where your nerves come down through your leg and through your spinal cord. He's like, I recommend freezing it because you can control it better. So I had 2 freeze treatments, and I was just feeling really good. Like after about 6 weeks, it had movement back. The pain was gone, and then it started hurting again. And I was like, oh my goodness. And you could visibly see it was swelling up. Yeah. And went back, got another MRI, and it started growing again. I was like, well, what's our plan now? And he was like, well, the freeze treatments, it does show that it's part of the tumor's dead, but it's not completely out of there. I was like, well, can we cut it out now? And he was like, well, I still don't recommend that. He was like, he's like, I want to meet with the other doctors, kind of discuss. And then he was like, we can go chemo now. And I was like, well, you told me at the start that this tumor could burn itself out if I wait long enough. He's like, that is fairly true. It can eventually burn itself out. And then I was like, well, I'm just going to try to do that. And then the pain just got to where it was affecting my everyday life. We went back and got a second opinion from a doctor at Johns Hopkins. He had an MRI done to measure it. It's right now it's bigger than it's ever been. So we're going to meet the 17th of this month, discuss either a light oral chemo to kind of shrink it and kill it, or radiation. So that's kind of where we're at, still battling that one. But in the midst of all that, in October, kind of, do you want to touch a little bit on that, or you want me to talk about it? We decided we were going to go down to Tennessee for a race. And on the way,
because Travis races,
yeah.
So you weren't going to watch it; you were going to actually race for people who don't.
Yeah, we run dirt track. So we decided we were going to take a weekend. And Casey's like, "We'll keep the kids. You guys go down." It was mom and dad, and then me and Allie. We went down to Tennessee. We had the race, and on the way home, we were cut off on Interstate 81, pulling our trailer, and we went down through the median. And the trailer kicked us sideways, and we barrel rolled about 4 times down the median, over the guardrail, back on the 81. So I never got knocked out or anything. I just had some injuries to my leg, and it was like really smoky from the airbags. And I was thinking that, all right, the truck's on fire. I got to get out. Yeah. So I get out. I crawl out the driver's side, back behind the driver's door, crawl out the window. We're upside down at this time. And I see Dad like pinned up against the door. And I was like, all right, well, I got to get Dad out. And then this guy comes flying up to me saying, I'm a doctor. I'm like, that's great. Let's get everybody out.
Yeah.
So we got the door open, got Dad out. My mom, it's really funny now to tell the story.
Now
it's extremely funny because she's just hanging upside down with her hand on the roof. And she was like, I just need a minute. I just had back surgery. I just need a minute. Oh. And we're like, all right. So they get her out. So the whole time, it's probably 3 minutes, but it feels like a long time. I'm like, where the heck is Allie at? Like, did she, the worst thing that happened? Like, did she get ejected? We can't find her. And then I told Dad we couldn't find her, so he's like down in the trailer looking for her. I don't know what he was doing.
But you want me to?
Yeah.
Okay. So, like Travis said, when airbags go off, it is like.
Yeah, I wouldn't have
known
that.
It's like cloudy, and you are in shock. But I also knew we were on the road.
Yeah.
So I was nervous that we were gonna get hit again.
Yeah.
And I just like look around. I see Angie. I can't see Robbie, but I see Travis like slithering.
I crawled out. I army crawled. She said I slithered like a snake.
And I just remember I could fight or flight. I gotta get out of here. So I just I just got out and just started. And this sweet soul from Bluefield, West Virginia, came, and he was like, "You can come and sit in my car with my wife and my dog." And they're big Christians, which was such a blessing. Yeah. He was like,
you had your shirt on, remember?
Yes,
we
did.
We got our shirt. We stopped at Buc-ee's.
You can't throw stones while washing feet.
Wow. Okay.
So he noticed it right away.
Yeah. So he noticed it right away, and he's like, "I want to pray with you," and they were just such blessings.
Yeah, that's amazing.
In that moment that I've really needed.
I remember him coming up to me.
Kept me calm. His voice was so calm.
He had like a real thick accent. He's like, "We got your wife, son. We got your wife." I was like, "All right."
And they just took care of me until they took me in the ambulance, and it was so nice. It was a blessing. I needed them in that moment. God knew I needed them.
Yeah.
Yeah. So just to fast forward a little bit, I had a visible wound on my leg. So of course Allie makes a joke. Everyone was like worried about me, like take care of Travis. So they were like, it was a gash or whatever, and they took care of me, and the ambulance came, and Allie's like, I'll just ride with Travis, kind of as like a passenger. I mean, they were treating her. They knew she was in a motor vehicle accident, but she was like kind of just like walked over and carrying me. I'm like got my leg up in the air.
Because you guys think probably the guardrail is what cut it.
Yeah, because we rolled over the guardrail.
It was nasty, yeah.
And it's funny. Allie's like, I think my collarbone hurts a little bit, and the EMT kind of pulls her shirt. She's like, yeah, your collarbone's broken. Like I can tell. She's like, yeah, I think I pulled a muscle in my back too. She's like, it's hurting a little bit. So long story short, I mean, the kind of crazy thing is they get you to the hospital,
Mm-hmm.
which was only like a 10-minute ambulance ride, and then you're just all separated. Like we're all like,
that was hard.
and of
That
course we
would be
were
really
2
hard, yeah.
hours and 15 minutes away from home probably.
Yeah.
So we're all just separated in our rooms. I don't want to give too much detail, but long story short, they stitched me up, got mom, she was out, and dad and Allie went to UVA because Allie's heart rate was really high, and they were kind of a little concerned about her back, and they were like, not that you're going to have emergency surgery, but if you are, you want to be at UVA.
Yeah.
So they sent her there. Morgan and Shane came. Casey and Randy came back,
Mm-hmm.
or came to see us. Jimbo turned around and came back to the hospital. We just had a lot of support, a lot of phone calls and stuff. And you want to talk any about it, or?
I mean, I know Morgan and Shane have been on
Yeah.
your podcast before,
Yes.
and they've kind of been our rock in a lot of things, as well as vice versa. And
Yeah.
I just remember like seeing them and taking like a deep breath, because anyone who knows me, I don't like to be by myself very often. And I was just like, thank God that they were there, and they just like really rooted for me. They talked to the doctors for me, and
fuss the doctors
for me, and just really
shout out to Shane.
Really helped me. Like went to the store, got me blankets and socks, because we didn't have anything.
They cut the clothes off of you. My favorite sweatpants. Still upset about it.
Yes, and I think that was, and you get home and everyone's there, and it's so nice, and so, I mean, our community has just been amazing. And but it is a lot of, we've been through a lot of tragedy and
traumas. Yes.
Traumas. And I'm not gonna lie, when we found out about his, it was one thing with my mass, because that's me, and I can, but when it's your partner, I think that's a total different feeling of, I almost felt helpless, because it was just like, I have no control. I mean, I never have control, but I just felt so, and I just remember before they got the call from the doctor, I just basically fell on my face and just cried and like screamed, almost like just let it all out. Like, God, I need you. I mean, I can't go on. Like, please, like begging God and just like really crying out to God. And just, I mean, it's not, we weren't always like, I'm going to get through this and this will just be fine. I mean, and we were like that, but
I think
then
we
again,
knew that, but we weren't, like, deep down we knew that, but we're like, it's really hard right now.
It is. All of it has been hard. And I think, but we are rooted. I think it's just such an important thing to be rooted in Christ, because no matter what you go through, even if you don't feel it, that God is in control. And I mean, that's how I'm a controlled person. I like to like have a plan, and God is just teaching me throughout my life that I truly have no control. I mean,
He's probably teaching you with me.
Yeah, I have to completely. I mean, you do, and people you search to fill this void. You search to feel okay. Like when you're going through something, you want to feel normal. You want to feel good. You want to feel, but nothing can make you feel complete except for God.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's why my favorite verse is Romans 8:31. If God is for you, who can be against you? And it's just like nothing or no one can. And I think that we just learned that. I mean, but it hasn't been rainbows and butterflies. It's hard.
Yeah.
It's still hard. I mean, I don't know. We don't know what the future holds with, the chemo or the radiation. I mean, we have 2 girls. Like that's hard. That's something we're going to have to go through and pray through, but we know it will be okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I love that you guys are being honest. And before we hit record, I was like, do not sugarcoat things. That's not helpful. Like, and I know I'm saying that because like I'll catch myself doing that. I'm like, no, that's not helpful for people. That's not relatable because we all go through struggles. And I always point people back to the Psalms because the psalmists, they cry out to God. They like ask him why. They're just so raw and vulnerable, but they say like, we know that you're good. Our trust is in you, just like you were saying, but it is okay to like just take it out on God. He can handle it. He can. Yeah. So I told him right before, I was like, I just added a question.